Previously on Stay in Your Lane.
The trucking industry is not a one-size-fits-all industry.
No.
But you think about operating, for instance, within a port facility, battery electric, autonomous vehicles make a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
If you're just shuttling containers around within a port facility.
Joe, do you have any questions for Rebecca? Anything you're thinking about?
Yeah. A lot of our viewers and listeners, how can they get, how does a transportation manager at a food company get information from your group?
So I think that's one of the really key features of ATRI is that we provide all of our research free of charge. And so it's on our website. It's real easy to remember our website address because it's what we do. It's truckingresearch.org. And we have grouped our research by what we call hot topics. So if hours of service rules are your big issue, you can click on hours of service rules and see our entire portfolio of research in that area. Traffic congestion, mobility, that's all grouped together. CSA scores, a big concern for a lot of fleets is how FMCSA evaluates their safety performance through CSA. We've done a whole host of studies focused on CSA, so it's all there, free for the taking. We just hope that when people take a copy or download a copy of one of our reports that they think about the fact that we are a charitable research organization and we rely on charitable contributions.
So you have a foundation then?
We are a 501c3 and we've made it real easy on that website after you've downloaded a study or two to make a contribution online.
Okay, great.
Wonderful. What I think the information is eye-opening for a lot of people.
Have you done research on the demographics of drivers?
We have, and we have a study underway right now that's looking at how we can bring more women into the industry.
Okay.
So in a separate study we did, we call our crash predictor model, we examined over 580,000 individual truck driver records to identify the driver behaviors that are most predictive of a future crash. So not what am I doing that gets me in a crash, but what's on my driving record that has the highest statistical relationship to a future crash. In that research, women drivers outperformed their male counterparts in every one of the statistically significant behaviors we looked at. So from a safety perspective, there's a real strong rationale for why we want to bring more women into the industry behind the wheel. But then you think about issues like truck parking and parking on the side of the road and some other issues, there are a lot of challenges.
Right. Well, especially for the over-the-road.
Absolutely.
Would that study also look at short-haul drivers or port
It
drivers?
does.
Okay.
It does. And in fact, in the latest crash predictor model, again, 580,000 records, only 2.7% of the drivers were female. And what we surmise there, we've tested a whole bunch of different hypotheses, but we believe, or based on the data that we had, the women drivers are more likely to hold Class B and C CDLs than they are Class A.
Correct.
So it's really that's where we need to get more women involved,
Sure.
because again, the safety rationale is very clear for why we want to do that. So with this study we have underway right now, we did a motor carrier survey, we did a driver survey. We're talking to truck driver training schools about how successful women are coming into their institutions and graduating and getting placed. And then next week, we're doing a focus group. We've identified 12 women who operate over the road, different parts of the country, different segments of the industry, and we're going to test all of the survey findings with those women and really go deep into sort of why did you consider a career in trucking when you started?
Right.
What were some of the hurdles you encountered on the way in? What was your training like? And what's keeping you here?
So, of all the research that you do here at Food Shippers of America Conference, what do you think will be the most shocking for everyone here if you share it?
A big eye-opener for folks who know about the trucking industry but maybe aren't totally in it every single day is how the drivers rank their top concerns. Understanding the top 10 issues that truck drivers say are most impactful to them. And every year in that annual survey we do of the industry, it goes back and forth on the driver list between driver compensation and the lack of available truck parking. But what else comes up on that driver list? Detention and delay at customer facilities.
That's no surprise.
No, it's not, but it's certainly a message that this audience needs to hear as well.
Well, I think hearing it and realizing that look in your backyard
Right.
and clean it up.
Right.
But that takes leadership. In our industry, sometimes people don't see it until it's put in a mathematical equation,
Absolutely.
because transportation is viewed in so many different organizations as a cost center,
Right.
right? So if we talk about women in trucking, like I had earlier, I had Jennifer on, and we talk about women in trucking. My concern for women in trucking is safety, respect, parking. For a man to use the bathroom in most instances, it's not a big,
Right.
crazy arrangement. A lot of the shippers and receivers in this country don't have clean, accessible bathrooms that lend themselves to the driver being a female.
No, absolutely.
How do we change that, right? Or should we change it? And why don't we make the changes that we need to? But we talk about software coming in the industry, talk about technology. You're using it for a lot of great data. So when a warehouse operation uses it to run, as efficiently as possible, but then they cause detention at their location, or
Right.
to run as lean as possible, we can do this with 5 forklifts when 8's probably what's needed,
Right.
right? Or manpower issues. So these are all real issues that we're all fighting. How do you get your message across where people actually take it and
Listen.
run?
Well, and you think about the fact that we, in this day and age, we have to have legislation introduced at state legislatures to allow access to bathrooms for professional truck drivers. That's insane. That's a situation that just simply cannot
That's
continue.
a basic human right.
It is a basic human right, and we all, for everything we want, depend on trucks and the men and women who drive them.
Absolutely.
So the idea that we have to force people to allow them to use the bathroom at their facilities is unconscionable, in my
Are
opinion.
you talking about the same truck drivers that 2 years ago were heroes?
Exactly. Yes,
Is that
those
the group
same
of
ones.
drivers?
Those same ones.
Those same ones. How about that?
Yeah, it's amazing. No, I was smiling when you mentioned bathrooms, because when I got my start in the industry, I worked for a private fleet. Transportation was a cost center, and I was the first woman in the office, and they did not have a women's bathroom. It was a truck terminal.
It was community restroom use.
Right. So I got the inside bathroom, and all the guys got the one on the dock, which didn't make me the most popular person there, but at least I did carve out my own space there. So.
Well,
Rebecca, do you see much in the top 10 issues? Do you see much difference in the demographics, men versus women, and how it gets ranked?
Joe, it's a great question, and we have not, in the almost 20 years we've been doing this survey, we've not asked people to identify their gender.
Oh, okay.
But we're adding it this year because
good.
we've got this focus on women's research. Because I can't believe we didn't think of it before, because I'm sure those issues are very different.
Yeah.
Some are universal. Lack of truck parking is
Pay.
everybody's problem. Everybody's going to be concerned about pay. But I do think there will be some differences in, for instance, speed limiters is one of the drivers' top concerns, because they're concerned about what the potential rulemaking coming out of FMCSA will look like. That's one I'd like to see. Is that one that ranks very differently for men than it does for women?
Sure.
Well, I think if you sit behind enough trucks that are governed, when you're heading somewhere, you'll wish there weren't speed limiters.
No, that's the truth.
But I think everyone has a perspective, and it depends on which seat you're sitting in.
Absolutely.
What perspective it is. I would say that women on the whole are safer than men,
And the data bears that out.
more caring, more caregiving about everyone, where I don't think the men are. And I'm saying that as a man. I admitted that. But I think the value in all of the information that you bring. It's always like, oh, hey, this was released. I got to check and see this. It's like E.F. Hutton. So does anybody call you to get the inside scoop?
I've got a few reporters who know. We always release our bottleneck list same time every year. We
Yeah.
always do the top industry issues same time every year. So I've got a few who'll say, come on, just give me a little inside look. And I'm like, can't do it. Becky Bottleneck keeps her lips closed until we release.
So you have a press release then when you come
We
out
do.
with data?
Yes.
We do. And so folks who want to follow our research more closely can go to our website, truckingresearch.org. right on the homepage, there's a button you can push to give us your email address. We don't inundate people with emails. It's research. It's not a fast process, so we don't release something every single week. But that way you'll get a notice every time we release a new study.
Oh, okay, great.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
We love having you here.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Becky Bottleneck.
Becky Bottleneck.
So let me ask you, I'm gonna go personal here. How in the world did you get in the trucking industry?
So when I graduated from college in the early 80s, there was a recession.
Right?
I was an English major. They weren't in high demand. So I actually went to Kelly Services. If people are older, they remember
Yes.
Kelly Girl.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Kelly
So
girl.
I was a Kelly Girl, and my first assignment was to this private trucking fleet. They had just installed the very earliest version of a trip recorder. It monitored speed, MPG, and hard braking, and that was it. And they were looking somebody to work with the data. English major, remember? Work with the data. And we had a driver quality circle back then. And so I ran the driver quality circle. Our drivers came in every Saturday morning from their runs, and we'd have our quality circle meetings, let the drivers, talk about whatever they needed to get off their chest. And so that's how I got my start in the trucking industry. Then I left that town, moved to another town where I worked as a governmental affairs director for a local chamber of commerce.
Okay.
And then I went to visit a friend in Atlanta, and this is when jobs were still in the newspaper. And ATRI's predecessor was the ATA Foundation, and the ATA Foundation was advertising for a public policy analyst. And I'm like, who else has trucking industry and government affairs experience? Because I was young, late 20s. I thought, I must be the only person in the world who has that combination of skills. So I applied, got the job, and here I am 31 years later.
That's great.
Wow. Wonderful. What a story.
Thanks.
I mean,
It's a
who
fun
would have
story.
thought?
I know.
English major?
I know.
Trucking industry.
Exactly.
Common sense, right?
Seems to make sense to me.
Well, I think you're wonderful at what you're doing.
Thank you.
And we thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Thank you. I
Thank you
appreciate
for making
sitting
time
down with
for
both
us.
of you. Thank you.
All right. Until then,
Till then.
stay
Stay
in your lane.
lane.